Hey, thanks for joining everyone. We are going to hold off one more minute here, and I think there may be a couple other people that'll join. So give us one more minute, and then we will get this thing kicked off. So thank you for your patience.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're glad you could join us here this afternoon. We're looking forward to speaking with you and sharing some of the best practices and resources that we've gathered through the NAIA Championship experience. First, we'd just like to start off by introducing ourselves. My name is Max Wyrick with From Now On. We're the mobile game day app for college athletics, and we're currently partnering with over 75 schools and conferences to help with their marketing and communications via the app. And I'm joined here by Jeremy Moore.
Like Max said, Jeremy Moore. I'm on our business development team as well. I very much enjoy talking to athletic departments on a daily basis and learning from you guys just about what your goals are, your challenges when it comes to marketing and communication, and with overall fan and student engagement. So like Max said, we greatly appreciate you taking some time out of your Friday afternoon to walk through this webinar with us.
And we know your time is very valuable, especially on a Friday. Everyone's a little antsy to get out. So we wanted to make sure that we put together a good agenda, which should be educational, and there's some time built in for questions at the end. But please feel free to ask questions throughout. There's a Q&A section on the screen, so don't be shy. Feel free to ask questions, and we can make sure to touch on those at the end. So just to give you a quick overview of what we're looking at and what we want to cover. The first thing is really the mobile madness, as I'll call it. So why mobile matters, really. And then what we're seeing as far as trends throughout the industry. And we'll go over a quick overview of the platform that the NAIA utilized with great success to engage with their fans during recent championships. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with questions. But again, as I said, feel free to ask those throughout as they're top of mind.
There should be a Q&A functionality on the menu bar as well, just as an FYI.
So if at any point up to now, you've already touched your phone or looked at it, you've probably already answered this question, but why does mobile matter? Having a smartphone is no longer a luxury or something you have to go out of your way. It's essentially an extension of yourself. Everyone has one and they always need it and they're always on it. So whether that be communicating with other students, other alums, coordinating events, sharing, did you see that highlights? Just making sure that you're connected in each way, whether it be ordering a ride from a stranger on your phone, using it as a flashlight. The sheer power and potential being held in someone's hand is limitless, and the most successful organizations and universities have realized how to tap into this potential by controlling the flow of communication, really designing the experiences and personalizing them. So I just want you to take a second and really think, imagine if Uber was a website and how different your interactions would be and how engaged you would be throughout the process and just how different that experience would be. It's likely that cabs would still be a thing outside of New York, not just New York. So just take a second. I know Jeremy will touch on this in a bit, but I wanted to put the thought in your head to think about how different it really would be, and then the new and unique opportunities available to deliver different and exceptional experiences if you were to engage with fans the way that Uber and Lyft does through their app. So now, just the lighter side of things, I wanted to jump into sort of the Friday funny, just really looking at some interesting facts about the smartphone. And worldwide, more people own a smartphone than a toothbrush, which is crazy to think because a smartphone's only been around for 11 years, but toothbrushes have been around forever. So the way that people adapt to it is very interesting. And people would also give up their car before they would give up their phone. I think it's because they could easily use their phone to order a ride from Uber or Lyft, but that's my guess. And it just shows you the value that their phones have to their fans and how it's part of their daily lives. So really, we wanted to give you a pop quiz on a Friday. So with that in mind, I just wanted to give you a quick question, really poll and see, how do you think consumers spend their time on their phone? Do they spend more time on mobile apps compared to a mobile browser? What percentage do you think is more geared towards a mobile app?
Awesome.
Yeah, and while the results are coming in, I'll just hand it over to Jeremy, and he'll go ahead and assign you a grade here in a few slides once we get the poll numbers in.
Perfect. Thanks, Max. So looking at consumers and how they seek mobile experiences. So when you look out into the world of college athletics and the landscape, and ultimately into your fans' mobile trends, one thing is becoming very clear very quickly, and that is in tandem with the smartphone becoming a central piece of your daily life, we also prefer and seek out native mobile experiences. We want it fast, and we want to be connected to what we want. So scores, boom. When's the next game? Here it is. Thanks to the experience economy that we all live in, every mobile experience is compared to your favorite app. So think about what your favorite app is, and that's what we compare it to. Is it giving you the speed of information? Is it timely? These are what schools continually tell us about our platform and what it helps them do, as well as their fans and students. So diving into mobile trend number one, and this directly ties to the question that we just asked. And on average, your sports fans are spending roughly 50 minutes a day on their favorite sports app. This doesn't include your diehards or anything like that, or people that are going to events. It's just your average. So think of those that are your diehards, that are spending more time in the app. As you can see, they're finding that via mobile. So the question was, how much time do consumers spend using a mobile browser compared to a mobile app? The answer is very minimal. 11% was the answer. I know there were some answers that were more, thinking that it was more mobile browser compared to mobile app, whereas it's, again, 89% are looking at mobile apps compared to a mobile browser. So that just shows you, like Max said, the direction that a lot of individuals, consumers, fans are going with mobile as a whole. So getting into mobile trend number two, tell me if this sounds familiar. You're at the game, there's a timeout or a break in the action, maybe it's halftime. You look up into the crowds, and what are people doing? They're more than likely on their phones. That exact same thing is happening to those watching at home. They're using that second screen. So why not put content in front of them that's more interactive, or that's connecting them back to the game or to the team? That's where we try to step in and really help out. And to continue on with this, so with that 80% of individuals using a second screen or checking their phone, how often are they checking their phones? And what are they doing when they're checking it? So as you can see from this, 45% of individuals are looking at their phone every 30 minutes. That number may seem high, may seem low, but what about those fans who are attending your live events? Sporting event attendees are now using their phone, even more frequently than that. Again, a lot of breaks in action, timeouts, idle moments. More fans are also sharing on social media rather than calling or texting their friends. And this is also very true when dealing with sporting events. Mobile trend number three out of the four is today's impatient consumers want things in the moment when they need them, which is typically now. So being able to deliver value at the fingertips of consumers is key to creating mobile revenue opportunities. For instance, Don't forget about tomorrow night's game. It's senior night. We're getting to the end of basketball season. That's a great example. So you can send a message out, tickets are running out, get them today. Mom and dad can't make it to the game, watch or listen here. Follow your son or daughter with live stats here. Those are just some examples of how you can utilize the platform from a communication standpoint. So a couple brands everybody knows, Starbucks, Amazon, Uber. What do they do great? The experience. It's worth remembering as a great experience and not just an average experience. So because of that, they create loyalty from their customers. And as they create that loyalty, that also drives referrals. So those are the three big things you take out of it: experience, loyalty, and referrals from a sponsorship activation piece. And then the last mobile trend is number 4. Brands such as car dealerships, healthcare facilities, that favorite pizza place down the street, they're all moving towards any opportunity to be more mobile, where their eyes are at from their consumers. So instead of being on a banner in the arena where they're only in front of fans, maybe buzzer to buzzer, they're now in front of your fans 24/7 in their pockets. So a great example of that is a We Win, You Win from Raising Cane's or Runza. If you don't know what Runza is, you need to come to Nebraska because that's the hot thing here. But again, you can say We Win, You Win, presented by Raising Cane's, here's a free box meal. So that way that chicken goes straight to their phone and they can redeem it from a time limit that you set, whether that's a couple hours, 24 hours, a couple days, it's totally up to you. And then the last thing I'll hit on before we do, again, a brief overview of the platform is these are the 5 biggest things we continually hear from our schools and athletic departments as to why they really enjoy the app platform. And these 5 things I'll make sure to hit on through the demo overview as well, but just want to hit on them real quick. The first one being revenue generation. As I just mentioned, there is a direct revenue generation with sponsorship activation. There's also an indirect side or an intangible side. You can promote your ticket sales. You can promote your merchandise or concessions. It's just a secondary market for what the athletic department is already doing, and we'll concierge that. You're engaging fans. How do you feel like your fans are currently staying connected to their favorite teams? More than likely, mobile. So we have a very robust communications channel with push notifications to get information to your fans the way they want it to be received, which is text, mobile, things of that nature. Also, audio and video streaming capabilities, and as I mentioned, social media, which is an ever-growing channel. Branding. You know, a school has the ability to promote their brands. As it gets harder and harder to recruit kids on campus and essentially retain those kids, there's an element of branding the app to help promote your brand through a different channel. So having an app really does say something about your brand, and it's also complementing other technologies that you're providing your fans. You're also now able to communicate to those fans the way that they want to get that communication, as I mentioned. Let's talk about in-venue engagement. They're going to the game. The fans are, as I mentioned, timing out, you know, when it's timeouts, idle time, and how do you get in front of them with great content? So we are offering things, or we hear our school say, hey, you know, enjoy the rewards piece, the in-game promotions piece, the in-game experiences, in which we're able to help all of them with that. And then finally, data and analytics. It's an ever-growing piece. Data is becoming more and more important to athletic departments. You know, where are people coming from? What are they spending their money on? The 3 big things we look at when it comes to mobile is how often are they in the app? Once they're in the app, what are they spending their time on, or what are they doing? As well as who's coming to your games. So a great example of that is with data we can pull for schools is we just added on a loyalty and rewards feature this past summer, it would have been. So those schools that added on that feature are seeing a 40% higher engagement rate than those schools that didn't. So those are just some fun data and analytics pieces that we really enjoy sharing with our schools to help improve what they're already doing.
So now we'll just take a quick TV timeout while Jeremy prepares to jump in. And while we're in this TV timeout, here's a good visual of some of our partners that we're working with using the platform.
As I switch over, as you can see, We work with a wide array of schools. It's not just your D1, Power 5 schools. It's everything in between, D2, D3, NAIA, junior college. It doesn't matter the size, even high schools. And we treat everyone the exact same with the level of service that we provide them, just because we want to make sure that every single athletic department is seeing the value as a true partner to them, as well as brainstorming opportunities and what we're doing with those other schools. So I went ahead and switched over to my phone here. And the app I'm going to demo for you is on that top left-hand side. That's our own internally built college. We're the Exarban Tech Fighting Pandas. Exarban is just the community that our office is in. It's just Nebraska spelled backwards. We're very creative that way. As you can see, we're right next to that Experience NAIA Champions app. If you guys don't have it, this is a great opportunity to do that, especially with the announcements of all the teams that are getting picked for basketball, as all of those will be through the app. But with that, one thing I find really unique and cool about our app platform is that it's very customizable to align with whatever your guys' goals are or whatever challenges you're having that you're trying to figure out. So if you were to go look at two schools, hold them up side by side, they may look very similar, they may look very different. Again, we can make it very simplistic or very robust depending on what's important to you. So again, I'll focus on those 5 things we continually hear from our schools as to why they really enjoy the platform as I walk through this. The first one being the sponsorship activation piece. As soon as I open it up, you'll notice on the bottom it says presented by from now on. That's just one example. We have about 20 to 30 different placements within the app. You can add in sponsorship and I'll continually hit on those. But landing on the home screen here, there are 2 sections to the home screen. That top section, which is what we call our multi-event screen, and then the bottom section, which is what we call our scrolling cards. The first thing I really want to hit on though for you is that robust communications channel that you can send out a lot of different ways on push notifications. So I'm going to hit on that top left-hand settings drawer. And we like to cater the app to each individual fan so they can pick and choose the experience that they get through the app. So it's a free app for them to download. There's a little bit of an onboarding process when they open up the app for the first time. And that onboarding process includes what teams do they want to follow. As we build out the app with our athletic departments, we say, what sports do you want included in here? Good majority of our schools add in all of their sports. You don't want a mad coach coming in your office screaming at you, asking why their team's not in there. But again, as a fan, I can pick and choose what teams I'm following. These can be changed throughout the seasons. Maybe it's not that season yet. And why that's important is we'll sit on top of your stat provider, where the first type of notification that goes out is an automatic game alert. So that stat provider does send that out. It's typically at the beginning of the game, halftime of the game with the score, and then at the end of the game. And those can all be presented by a sponsor. They can be click to watch, click to listen, click for stats. It's very easy to do. And again, the stat provider sends those out. Also, you can segment notifications by fans following a particular team. So great example of that, and I've already seen it here this spring, are rain delays for baseball. Up north, we're having more snow delays, where I can send a segmented notification to fans following a particular sport. So for rain delays, if I want to send them out to just my fans following baseball, I absolutely can do that. So that's the first way that you can segment a notification. Another question it'll ask during the onboarding process is, what affiliation are you to the school? These are some common ones. Again, throughout the build out, we figure out what affiliations you want, kids club, boosters club, things of that nature. But we'll say, hey, I'm a student, but I'm also a fan. If I graduate in May, I can very easily change it from student to alumni. Same thing from a push notifications aspect. You can segment those by affiliation if you want. So if you want to send them out to just your students and say, hey, first 50 students to the game get a free t-shirt, they're the only ones that are going to be receiving that notification, which is really nice. So you can, again, segment it by affiliation, by sport. If you don't want to segment it, you can send out a notification to everybody that has the app. Very easy to do that. And then another type of notification you can do is a geofence notification. So we'll put what we call geofence around your stadiums and arenas and gyms and fields in the university if you want to. And you can send a targeted notification to just those individuals that are within that geofenced area. So we'll say basketball games going on, dollar popcorn at halftime. I want to let our fans know that are at the gym. I can send a notification to just those fans inside the gym. That way, if you have an alumni that lives 3 hours away, doesn't care about dollar popcorn, they're not going to get that notification. So very easy to do. You can time those notifications out throughout the week. If you're in the office on Monday, do it throughout the week, throughout the month, or you can send them on the fly as well. They're very easy to do when it comes to notifications. So landing back on the home screen, I'll focus on that top section next. This is, again, where we'll cater the app to that particular fan. So as a fan, if I am only following a handful of sports, those teams and games are going to show up on the top. So if I'm not following tennis or wrestling or things like that, those events and games are not going to show up within that multi-event screen. So one thing I continually hear are, our students don't know when the game's happening, or our fans didn't know that there's a time change. They can very easily swipe through and look at today or the upcoming week's events and say, oh, this is when the game is, here's where it's being played at, the time. It doesn't have to be just games. A lot of athletic departments are doing some neat things around events, tailgates, golf outings, things of that nature that you can include in. Or if you want to team up with the university, and they have some neat things going on with concerts, speakers coming on campus, due dates of things, you can easily throw those in here as well if you want to get the university more involved. Not only can I flip forward into the future, but maybe you're like me, you go to bed at 8 o'clock. I'm a early to bed, early riser type of guy, but the game didn't get over until 8:30. Hopefully I got that notification that gets sent to me, so right when I wake up, I can see the score. But if I click on that notification, I can also go back into the past and look at any games that have been played recently. And with that, if I click on that notification for the game alert, it can drop me straight into that game and show me what those stats look like. So not only can I come in here and read those stats while the game is happening, but I can also come in here and look at those after the game is completed. So sometimes I'll get alerts ahead of streaming. I'll watch some games streaming, and I'll get the alert first. So I just like to make sure I put my phone down so that way I can see the end of it if it's a close game. Otherwise, it's sometimes nice to get those alerts while I'm out and about. If the game hasn't happened yet, an individual can click into that game. It'll say game hasn't happened, check back for your stats. As you can see, some more sponsorship inventory on the bottom, but also a place to put in tickets and media. For those schools that do have a ticketing partner or sell them online, this is a great opportunity where we'll concierge and sit on top of the platform that you guys already use. If you have sports you do not ticket for, or you do not have a ticketing partner, maybe you just do it at the game, we can very easily leave that section off, so that way your fans don't get confused. We also have audio and video streaming capabilities depending on the rights of the school and what they utilize those for, as well as we're fully integrated with YouTube. Some schools are doing some really neat things around YouTube, pre-game hype videos, post-game highlight videos, coaches shows. I can very easily click into the streaming. Some schools are going over to YouTube Live for streaming and then come in here, click on it, see it that way. I can go full screen, so it doesn't matter if I'm on my phone or I'm on my tablet. Everything is very easy to see, and this includes sponsorship inventory as well. Audio, it seems like radio's been around forever, but it's never going away. So this is a great opportunity to add in native audio feeds, whether it's game, coaches show. Some schools are doing podcasts, which are kind of neat, but I can come in here, click on play. If I'm out driving, I can Bluetooth it to my vehicle, and then I don't need to stay on this page to listen to the game. I can go anywhere else within the app or close out the app entirely and continue listening to the game. So some great opportunities to stay connected to your fans at one click of a button. And then social, we'll sit on top of your Twitter accounts. It's one of the most followed social media channels, and it's nice to be able to see what you guys are sending out, whether they're videos, photos, just general context. Even if I'm a fan and I don't have a Twitter account, I know that's hard to believe, but your fans can still come in here and watch and see anything that you guys are tweeting out via Twitter, which is nice. One thing you'll notice right below that game as well is we have what we call 4 quick links in there. There's the video, audio, Twitter, and ticketing. We're constantly taking feedback from our schools and athletic departments on how we can continually improve, as well as we're listening to your fans. As you can see, a good majority of the app is native. As we mentioned, 89% of people prefer native compared to a mobile browser, so I don't have to click in and zoom in and fat finger something. Everything is typically 1 to 2 clicks away. So one thing we wanted to make sure that we did is made it very easy for your fans to follow games that are happening. So what I mean by that is, for instance, live audio. Instead of clicking into the game and going over to audio video, I can very easily click on that live audio link and it'll open up straight to that. So it's just one less click. And that way it's, as you can see, user-friendly, regardless if I'm 13 years old or 73 years old. As I mentioned, everything is typically 1 to 2 clicks away for your fans to find what they're looking for. You'll also notice that trophy icon. As I mentioned, we added on a loyalty rewards feature this past summer. It's not our main feature, but it's a great optional additional feature for schools that do find it important. So with it, in order for me to check into a game, athletic departments can do it for their entire fan base or for just their students. So in order for me to check in, I need to create a profile, which is very easy to do. I need to be at the game or within that geofenced area, and then it has to be time for me to check in. So we have a whole customer success team that shares brainstorming ideas of what other schools are doing, how many points should games be worth, when should they open and close, things of that nature. So that way it's very easy for me as a fan to come in here and check into a game if I'm there. Obviously, I'm not at the game right now. I can't check in. But in order for me to look at my profile, that top left-hand settings drawer, that's where this hides at, is 5 down, is that rewards profile. I can click on it. That profile will then open up the history. I can see any games that I've checked into, any events I've checked into, and then any prizes I've redeemed. Speaking of prizes, prizes mean so many different things. Is it a tangible item like a bobblehead, a water bottle, a live panda, or is it an experience or an upgrade, a half-court shot at halftime? Or are they sponsored gift cards? These are the type of things that we'll brainstorm with our schools, so that way they're high value to the fans or the students, so they continually utilize the platform. You can also do year-end and semester-end prizes. It looks like we have a pretty sweet prize of a boat that we're giving away, so it looks like I need to go to more games. And then rankings to see where you end up. Very easy to come over here, see where I stack up and if I need to be going to more games. And then the data and analytics piece. That piece comes in right here where I can edit my profile as a fan or a student, and I can look at my groups and my subgroups. So that way, if you have a contest between, your student athletes, if you're trying to drive them to go to other student athletes' games or other teams' games, they can come in and pick and choose what team they're a part of, if they're a part of a fraternity or sorority. That way you can say, hey, at the end of the semester, the group that has the highest amount of points wins, a pizza party or something of that nature. Not only that, but on our backend portal or our content management system, you're able to pull all of this data and information. How many people are going to games? What groups and subgroups are they a part of? You can export all of that information as well. So that way, if you have a special promo for a game, you can see if it actually worked through the people that were checking in. So that's where that data and analytics piece comes in, because again, that's just becoming more and more important for athletic departments. And then the last thing I'll hit on is these bottom cards. These are all, to an extent, very customizable, and you can change the priority of them as well. This is the general layout that we see our schools include these cards. The first one being teams. As I mentioned, we cater the app to that particular fan. So if I'm only following, say, 4 sports as a fan, those 4 sports are going to show up first in the front, and then the rest of the sports will show up behind that. So that's how we cater this to your fan base. Also, if I'm, say, at the game, number 2 just had a sweet dunk. I have no idea who number 2 is. I forgot to pick up a program. I can jump straight into the app, click on my men's basketball team. I can learn a little bit more about them with stats, things of that nature, or I can scroll over to the roster and see who that particular player is. For teams that have larger, or for schools that have larger teams like football, there's 100 kids on the team, I can still come in here, search, it'll dwindle down who I'm looking for, I can click on them, and I can as a fan learn a little bit more about them. So as I mentioned, our customer success team will preload all of this in here for the school and change out as much or as little as the school wants. We're essentially another person on your team, just dedicated to the app. But all of our teams and athletic departments have the ability to change these out as they want to. So it's your app, you can do what you want with it. Same thing for the event schedule. We cater this to that fan. Only games are going to show up for teams that I am a fan of and following. So I can scroll into the future, scroll back into the past, click any of these games, look at the stats of those games, very easy to do. If I want to learn more about a particular team, there's a filtered button on the top right-hand side as well that I can click on and search my schedule by team. So still, we want to make sure that it's high value to the fan and that it's showing up for the teams that they want to follow. The fan guide is also very customizable. I continue to hear from our athletic departments how they have a lot of game day programs left over after the season. We're not trying to take that over whatsoever. We're just trying to, again, complement or concierge what you're already doing. So these are some great ideas we've seen schools do. Ticketing for those schools that don't have a ticketing partner to put in individual games or an all-season pass. That's an intangible way to generate revenue. Social media, if you want to add in all your social media channels for all your sports, you absolutely can. If you have game day previews you want to throw in here for a couple different games, your bigger games, homecoming, rivalry game, you can absolutely do that. Some schools do parking information and the clear bag policy. But a big thing is, in order for some athletic departments to say, hey, I'd love to get others involved on campus. I want to help alleviate our budget. Who else can we get involved? There are a handful of others that we've heard current schools tap into, and that includes the Alumni Association, the Boosters Club, as well as the student group for student affairs, as well as admissions. The loyalty rewards feature, directly ties to student retention. So you see that they are interested in times. But, to get them involved, you could say, hey, we're having a capital campaign for this renovation of the stadium. Send out a notification. I click on it, donate here. It could drop me straight into the Alumni Association, and it can point me right to where I can donate. So that's another intangible way to just show some value to the university, which is great. And with those notifications, you can take them into wherever you want to within the app. It's not just they go to the home screen. You can directly point them anywhere within the app you want to. So those are some examples you can utilize the fan guide for. The next two cards are very customizable. Concessions, if maybe you only have one concession with hot dogs and popcorn, maybe this isn't as relevant to you. But if you want to include what's for sale and how much they are, that way if I'm sending my kid, to get popcorn, I can give them $5 and I know how much I'm going to get in change, or just let them keep it. It's totally up to the parent. And then merchandise, if you have an online store or a bookstore, we can include either or both, and that way you can highlight some hot items, and how much they are. So merchandise and concessions, those are very optional and up to the athletic department on whether or not they're high value or not. And then the last two cards are more cultural and promotional. So promotional, as I mentioned, the whole we win, you win, you could drop a card in here for that. Or if you have any financial institutions, car dealerships, anything like that, and they want to be hosted in here, you can very easily change this out as much or as little as an athletic department wants. And then we have a cultural card. So coaches shows, conference player of the weeks, postseason. Again, just got announced for the basketball tournament. You could throw that in here. And you can also tie in audio and video to this as well. So if you have any YouTube content and you want to throw that in here, there's a lot you can do. And as I mentioned as well, you can change the priority of these and move them to the very front if you want to. So that's the first thing that your fans see when they open it up. It's just high value to them. So that's just, again, a quick overview of the platform. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, don't hesitate to reach out to me, but I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. So we'll dive back into the PowerPoint, and I'm going to turn it back over to Max here.
Thanks, Jeremy. And when I was just thinking from the fans' perspective on, looking back at the 89%, why they prefer using apps rather than the mobile browser, just think of all that was able to be achieved just in that app. And it was specific to your preferences, the teams that you like, and how you like to engage with them. It's a very easy process. It pushes to you. It makes being a fan an easy thing, and it makes it a lot more fun and more interactive than you having to proactively search, remember certain things, know everyone on the roster, grab the paper, roll it up, put it in your pocket, do everything else. But it just makes it easier being a fan and allows the universities to really engage with the students in a number of different ways that may not be possible if you aren't able to connect with them on the devices they use most, which are their phones. But just moving ahead and really thinking from the fans' perspective and really how universities do reach out, push notifications has been the #1 best practice and really what's been the indicator for success and the most popular thing from a university standpoint. And from a fan standpoint, it makes things easier. I forget about games all the time. If I get reminded that day, it makes it a lot easier to engage, invite others to go to the game, and it just ultimately helps with the building my loyalty towards the team because they want me to be engaged as a fan, and it makes it easy to do so. So really, it's just getting those notifications and the ones that matter to me. I can get all kinds of them, but if it's not the sports I want, I don't really care. And we know that 98% of home screen notifications do get read. Even if it's a quick swipe to dismiss it, I still know what that says. So you're still communicating with them, and it's a great way to reach out, to do promotions. The good example here is on game day, you get 40 cents off for gas. I mean, you're going to go to the game. Why not save money doing so? So that helps with the sponsor and the fans. Really a win-win way to reach out and communicate with the fans and engage in a new way that would not be possible in other ways. So we do have one last pop quiz, and it should be pretty easy. Have you downloaded the NAIA Championship app yet?
So with that, we were very much excited to partner up with the NAIA here back in the fall. We launched the Championships app to start with the fall sports of football and volleyball, and had a lot of success with that. And with the announcement of the basketball teams in D1, D2, both men's, women's, we're looking at continually growing that going into winter, and then spring with baseball and softball as well. So as you can see, Corey mentioned it as well with the addition of the app for the NAIA Volleyball Championships and how successful it was with that. But if you haven't downloaded it yet, make sure to go check it out in the App Store maybe when we're done, and follow along with basketball. I know that there is some good content in there right now from ticketing and streaming, but we will be adding in a lot more now that the teams are being announced for the basketball championships.
So from this point, I mean, really, we want to put it back into your hands, see what questions you have. We're very excited to work with NAIA, and we hope to be a resource and a partner for anyone throughout the NAIA that's looking to engage with fans and get creative and really open the idea book and look for marketing communication partners. So if you have questions, you're holding on to them, right now would be a great time. Feel free, let us know. We're happy to answer anything you have.
I'm looking at the poll resorts, excuse me. It looks like we're kind of split, where 33% said yes, 33% said no, and 33% said I'm downloading it right now. So
sounds like a classic Friday answer.
Yes, exactly. So if you're no, you can go download it. I wouldn't say right now, even though we're almost wrapped up here. But looking at some questions, what's the number one benefit of the app for a school? So that's a loaded question. I'd say just the branding aspect. We continually hear our schools say we're trying to recruit student athletes, and getting that in real time information out to the fans. So it's kind of twofold between your general fan base, which includes alumni, and then your student population, and trying to continually engage them to go to games and incentivize them. So, a benefit, the number one benefit for the school is, like I said, twofold, on whether it be the communications and marketing piece or the overall fan and student engagement piece, where you're really branding up the athletics department, which is great, and staying in front of the curve. As Max said, it's hard to believe the smartphone's been around for 11 years, but it's still really growing within activations and sponsorship pieces and things of that nature.
And I'd just add, it's really a proactive approach. If you're waiting for fans to look you up, it's really when you're already top of mind, and half the battle is getting them to think about you, especially for sports that may not have the highest attendance. If you're able to push out and market different sports by engaging with them proactively, it takes your marketing campaign and other areas to a whole nother level when you are the one reaching out to the fans.
Another question is, how easy is it to maintain the app, and are there any integrations available? So that's a big thing I continually hear from our schools, is how long does it take, or how much time does it take to maintain the app? So we are finalizing an integration with Sidearm. So we're building that out. We're hoping that'll be ready in the near future, summer and beyond. You know, we don't have a general timeline yet, but we'll make sure we continually share that with schools that have sidearm, and that will be a full integration with schedules and rosters. For those schools that don't have sidearm, that's where our customer success team really comes in, and they help maintain the app. As I mentioned, they're essentially another person on your guys' team that's going to take over the app, and they can be very hands-on or very hands-off, depending on how much you want them to be involved. But as I mentioned, we really like to be that true partner for our schools. Another one is, are we able to speak with your marketing department and SID? Absolutely. Any ways that we can help support anyone that's on this webinar, whether it be from a SID, sponsorship, development, marketing, AD as a whole. We want to make sure that we're here to support you guys with this. If we need to do a demo at a later date, once crossover season's done, or I know some schools have their planning hats on already, others aren't quite there yet. But that's where we'd love to continually add value to the department and any continued conversations as you guys have these meetings. Don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll be following up with each individual person that was on this demo as well. And then last question, it looks like, how long does it take to go live with an app? So that really varies, but typically we run on a 30 to 60-day time frame. Depending on how proactive the athletic department is to get content. We can pull a lot of content from a website, but there is still branding materials, logos, color scheme, things of that nature that we need from the athletic department. So we typically say 30 to 60 days. So if there's a particular event, game, time frame that a school really wants to have this type of platform by, we'll say, hey, you know, count back 30 to 60 days, and that's when we would need to, you know, start conversations and get kicked off. Awesome, great questions. Thanks, guys. So with that, you know, Max and I just want to thank everyone that was on this webinar. Again, if you haven't downloaded the NAIA Championships app, make sure you go check that out. Otherwise, we'll make sure that we send out this video to everyone that attended today to hold on to and share with your internal team. Otherwise, if you have any other one-off questions or would like to see a full demo for anyone else on your team, don't hesitate to let us know. Otherwise, I'm sure we'll be in touch with you guys regardless in the meantime. So with that, you know, best of luck with the rest of the basketball season, headed into spring sports. Have a great weekend, and we will be in touch.
Thank you, everyone.